Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 31 of the Plot Twist podcast. My name is Catherine. I am coming to you from the north of Germany, which is where I have recently moved and now live with my husband and our 3 kids. This is a slow fashion podcast focusing primarily on knitting. You can find everything that I talk about, all the information from my Ravelry and my Instagram pages for how to contact me and so on and so forth, how to find the patterns that I talk about in the description box below this video, where I keep my show notes and links to everywhere that I mentioned. Okay, today I am going to show you what I've been knitting on over those last 2 weeks. I did sit down last week to talk to you, but I recorded an episode where I showed all of my winter sweaters and just gave you a little, review or introduction to my most worn winter sweater patterns, just because I'm rotating my winter wardrobe out now, even though I'm wearing my weekender. That's part of the winter wardrobe episode. But that is just the fact that I'm wearing the sweater today. It's just due to the fact that, and I'm looking out the window today, it's very rainy. Right now it's only drizzly. I hope it doesn't rain so much that you can actually hear it on camera, or like in the video. I don't know, it's just April weather. So in the morning it might be sunny and beautiful, and a few days ago it was like that. I did garden work and it was so enjoyable and such spring weather. And then come 11 a.m. We had a hailstorm, and then in the afternoon it rained. And that's just April weather, right? So we go back and forth from t-shirt weather to winter sweater weather. But I have now already given them a soak. I've stored away sort of my heavier winter sweaters, so with a collar and turtleneck and whatnot. So this sort of neckline is now pretty well suited for the weather that we're having in the moments when it's colder, like today or now. I shouldn't say today, but now. And so I haven't stored away my entire winter wardrobe, but I'm slowly rotating things out, right? And rotating other things in. So over the next few weeks, you'll see me in one of my spring knits. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So if you're interested in finding out more about the yarn and so on, you can click on the link below to my Ravelry page for my weekender sweater. And I will now move on to what I've been working on. Oh no, hold on. I wanted to ask you a question, because I've been thinking, and I realize most of you come from the US that are watching this video, so it's not going to be interesting for you, I assume. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Because I wanted to ask you, I've been thinking I would be interested in recording 1 video per quarter, so every 3 months, and as a sort of wrap up of what I've been making over the last 3 months in German. Because I've decided to podcast in English, and there's many reasons for that, and that won't change, right? So I do stand by that choice. I feel very comfortable with that choice, but I think it might also be fun to offer something to viewers in Germany who would prefer a German podcast, just because I am German and it wouldn't be a problem at all. So, but I won't run like 2 podcasts parallel, because that doesn't make any sense for me, or for anyone. I mean, that would not work. And that's, but I could record, I figured, a video per quarter, and then just say like, this is what I've been making over the last 3 months. These are the patterns. And this could be a fun, longer, but also like fun and filled episode. And please do leave a comment if you're interested in that, or contact me in some other way. That would also be fine. But I just want to ask. I mean, I'm going to decide what I want to do, but I want to ask what you think about that, and if you are like, yay, that would be so fun, please let me know. Whichever way you want to contact me, on Instagram or here, or send me an email. I don't know, but that's just an idea that I've been having, and it would be fun because it's just different speaking in your mother tongue. So this is just something that I've been wondering about and that I've been contemplating for a few weeks now. So I thought I'd reach out and ask you and just see what you all think about it, and ultimately just go with my gut. But maybe that would be a fun thing to add to the channel. Okay, now I want to introduce you to my knits and show you what I've been working on over the last 2 weeks. And I am going to start with my French supply bag. You've seen it before. I'm not a pin person so much. I mean, there are people who have thousands of pins on their bags. These are all the pins that I own. One is missing. Oh yeah, the Christmas one is missing because I took that off. But these are the ones that I have. And I keep them on here, which is a project bag I have very much in rotation now. So there is always something in there. There has always been something in there over the last 3-4 months. So that's fun. I love the color. And it's just the perfect size for a smaller project like socks, right? You've guessed it. I have, last time in my actual podcast, not last week, but the week before, I've shown you my scrappy stripy socks that I finished. And I told you how, I thought I'd run out of the pink yarn that I wanted to be, I can actually show you, that I wanted to be the main color in terms of heels, cuffs, and toes, and then stripes throughout with contrasting stripes. I should have brought those socks instead of just talking about them, but I don't have them on me now. I'll link the episode or the project page if you want to check those out. And then when I desperately went into my stash to dig out something that would sort of resemble that color so I could continue knitting my sock, I found a sock that I had already knit in this color and that I was ready to rip out because there had never been a second sock. And this is the sock that I made back then. See? And now I am, hold on, am I? Where's the yarn? I am somehow pulling from it, even though I don't now find the end. But I am here, pulling from it to knit. As I knit, I frog a little bit of the sock. I use that to finish my other sock, and now this is left as a sort of leftover, as another set of scrap yarns, right? So I mean, in the spirit of wanting to use up some more really small scraps, because sometimes you do leftover projects and then you have leftovers of your leftovers, right? And I wanted to really use up every little bit, even if it just serves me for like 2 rounds on my sock, and scrape together what it was that I found, and also the leftovers from that other sock project, right? Because then you're gonna have leftovers from your leftover project. That's exactly what I mean. So I have this little bit left over from my other sock project, for instance. I pulled out other things and cast on 2 more socks. And I'm again knitting them concurrently. So on 2 different needles, but cuff here, a cuff there. Half of a leftover here and the other half I'm gonna put in here. And this is often the method to my madness with scrappy socks, that I use the same scrap in roughly the same place in my sock, and I sort of divide that scrap in half, but just roughly. I mean, I don't weigh it, I don't measure it, I just knit 4 5 rounds on one sock and then 4 or 5 on the other, and then I take it from there. And if one ends up with 10 rounds and the other only has 6, I don't care. I'm just gonna knit a little bit more with the next scrap that I add in on the one that got a little less before. Does that make sense to you? I'm going to explain a bit more in depth because this was not a good explanation, I think. But first I'm going to show you the socks. Hold on. So you're looking at them from the back because the heels are already in place, right? There you go. These are them. And yes, there is ends to be woven in. Sorry, so I'm magic looping, as you can see, which is why the cords are all over the place. These are 2.25 millimeter needles. This is the Chagu red lace, and this is my Knit Pro, so KNITFLIX Zing. I cast on 60 stitches as per usual. That's what I always do. This time with a contrasting color on the tip of the cuff on both sides. That is the Zaubaball leftover that I have. And then you will recognize this. I went back to my pink that I've just showed you, this, right? The Tweedy yarn. This is all commercial sock yarn because I don't really enjoy mixing commercial sock yarn with like hand-dyed nylon bases, a 75-25 or 80-20, because I think even if they both contain nylon, but this commercial sock yarn is so much sturdier. It's like a good German sturdy sock yarn, right? Whereas the hand-dyeds are much softer and more delicate and wear holds much sooner, I feel. So I don't like to mix them. It's a kind of either or thing. And I usually I either knit socks out of non-superwash, or this, if I go for commercial sock yarn, I will use this sort of German sturdy yarn, right? Or something like, so that would also go for West Yorkshire spinners or something like that. But not the softer hand-dyed yarns. It's just a preference. I think they just last much longer. And that's why I collected those kinds of scraps, right? So I did what I always do, which is I kind of used the same scraps up entirely, but roughly in the same placement, but on 2 different socks, so that they look scrappy but also match, you know. And I don't use up one leftover completely on the sock and don't have anything of it in the other, but they're sort of well, they kind of match. And I put the heel in the color that I also used last time, that one. Can't see anything like this, but this one. It doesn't look like much, but it is so fun to knit up. It is also commercial yarn. What is that? I don't know now, but it's so fun to knit up. It's really nice and plump, and it's just fun. Also how the colors come together when it's knit up. It doesn't look all that interesting, but knitting it is really fun. And now I'm adding in more. I'm on the gusset decreases, and what I did to keep count on the leg is the following. Hold on. So because if I if I sort of roughly divide my leftovers and knit a few stripes here, no, not stripes, but rounds here and then there and on each sock and go back and forth, I will not end up with the exact same amount of rounds on each sock. I could, but I didn't care enough to, you know, be bothered. But what I did is I always counted and put a stitch marker every 10 rounds so that I would always keep track and know that the legs are equally long, even though the placement of the individual colors may just vary. So one sock might get 2, 3, 4 rounds more of one color than the other, but I would know, you know, how much more I needed on each sock without having to count all the time, or to constantly worry about getting them equally long, you know, because I like them to be equally long, as in I counted the rows and both socks are, I don't know, 56 rows or something like that, rounds. There are people who just eyeball it, who go like, yeah, this seems fine, and then go and put in the heel. That's fine. If you're that knitter, then that's cool, but it would drive me absolutely insane. I'm too much of a control person to to relax into that situation where I would just eyeball it entirely. That would never happen to me. So I have to really have that sort of control and know that they're equally long, yeah, that my numbers are there, you know. So that's why I'm putting in my stitch markers, and that way I can keep track. And I think I put in 30, 40, 50, so 50 rounds on each leg. I started with a 2x2 ribbing and then went into a 3x1 so that it sits nice and snug on the foot. But for some reason, the 3x1 ribbing is more enjoyable to me than the 2x2. I don't love the 2x2 ribbing. I'm always happy when the cuff's over. And I'm also always glad when the heel's over, but the heel was pretty nice on the sock to knit, on these socks, because both of those are done now. Yeah, and that's my scrappy socks. These are what I only knit on when I pick up the kids and I have to wait in the car for a few moments or go anywhere and I know I'm gonna have 5 minutes. Then I'll bring these because it's just a small portable thing. I always know where I am. I don't need to worry about a pattern or anything. I can just pick them up and go. And so I'm an experienced enough sock knitter that socks are absolutely brainless. So there is no moment of, oh, hold on, how does that work? But you know, it's just socks. So if you're new to sock knitting, it is not just socks, but I've knit so many socks in my life that this is really my go-to for when I don't want to think about anything at all. So yeah, that's what I've been knitting on those, and when I cook. So because when there's these 5 minutes when you wait for something to boil and before you put the other thing in, or I don't know what, not with every dish, and I don't like cooking, but with many dishes, that's how it works for me. So I will have these, and the good thing is I can just drop the project if I just have to pay attention to something. And yesterday I cooked and I just realized how much I dislike cooking. I really don't enjoy the process at all. I wish I would. I wish I really would enjoy it, but I don't. But recently my husband's been working so much and also working in the garden and in the house because we have so much to do here that I thought it was a better use of our time if he does that and I cook. And yesterday I realized that my knitting project is what makes it so much more, I almost want to say, bearable to me. It's not a question of enjoyable, because it's not enjoyable for me to cook ever, but it makes it so much more okay that I have to cook if I can sneak in 2, 3 rounds, whatever, because yeah, because then I can focus on that, you know, on the moments that I have for my sock knitting, and not all the time that I'm standing here cooking. I don't want to whine about it, but it's just nothing that I enjoy doing, and it's nothing I'm particularly good at. It's okay, I'm an okay cook, but yeah, I don't know. Thank goodness for cooking, thank goodness for knitting, because it can just save every situation. right? Okay, my next work in progress is one you've seen before, and very recently too. I'm going to untangle this and then I can hold it up. I'm talking about my jelly roll blanket, which you will have figured out by now, right? If you are a returning viewer. And everybody and their mother is knitting this blanket right now, it feels like, at least in my bubble. And I'm going to show you the blanket, and then I'm going to show you the progress that I've made, and talk about my plans with that thing. I hope I can fit it on the camera. Okay, here goes. Other side. Whoops, hold on. Oh, I got stuck. So, okay. This is a pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. I've had it on the podcast plenty of times recently, and also in the more distant past. I had it hibernating when I had finished 6 stripes out of my 9 that I now have. So I finished with the orange, right? Then I added in, and that was the very end of March. At the very end of March, I added in this gray stripe. Can you see? At the beginning of April, end of March, beginning of April, I added in my green stripe. And since I have added in this pink stripe up here, I don't know that I'm doing a good job of showing it as my blanket. So I've now added in this stripe and finished it just a few days ago. Yesterday, the day before yesterday. Now my husband's coming downstairs, hold on. So, and now I've begun knitting this yellow stripe. So that was yesterday or the day before. So this is fingering weight. Hold on, I can't hold it up. I can't hold this little piece up. There you go. I'm knitting on 2.5mm needles, which are US 1.5s, right? I'm knitting my socks on a US size 1, and these on a size 1.5 US. And I've only just knit this tiny little bit, but I have to tell you something. I really love knitting this color. I'm going to put the needle in so it holds up a little bit better. And then I'm going to show you those 3 together. I mean, that is fun. This beautiful green, this pink, and then this gorgeous yellow, which is like a really gold color. It has these darker flecks, red flecks in there. Maybe you can see it on the back. Maybe you can see that it's a little bit speckled. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm not a yellow person. I never got the hype with the mustard yellow, but here I really see how this pink and yellow, how these look so good together. And I didn't think they were gonna. But as I'm knitting this up, the combination is just beautiful. And the yellow is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I love this color yarn. It is amazing. It's also, the base is also really, really nice. It's a mystery skein. No, is it? Yes, I think it is. I think it is a mystery skein. I'm going to show it to you. I mean, I think it is just amazing. This is a real surprise for me. And interestingly, I'm really looking forward to knitting this yellow stripe. I thought, and I said this a few weeks ago at the end of March when I picked this project up again, I thought I was just going to knit 1 strip a month. Kein Problem. So my husband just came downstairs because he's upstairs in the office and he's working, and he came downstairs to get something to drink. And so I had to stop for a moment because the kitchen is just, you know, in the other room. And so I started knitting on my blanket for a second. But I think I was saying that I was initially planning on knitting a strip a month so as to catch up with the blanket over the year, in the course of the year, so that it, I'm just going to keep knitting as I talk, so that I would have it ready by the end of the year. And for whatever reason, I figured in March, I'm not a number person per se. I figured that I had to knit because I wanted 3 more strips to go in here. And I think I figured 1 strip a month would get me there. So that by December, during December I could knit the I-cord. But then I have 2 months left over. So that does not make any sense. I think I calculated with a half a year, as if we were already in June. So that does not make any sense at all. But it doesn't matter because I'm not following that recipe anyways, because evidently I just kept going. And I've knit on this monogamously except for the socks, but those were really only, once I left the house and found this a little too bulky. But having said that, I mean, when I just go to pick up my son from school, I might very well bring my blanket and just put on the passenger seat and knit a few, like a centimeter or 2 as I wait for him. Yeah, so I do take it outdoors. It's just that it's not as portable. I'm not going to walk into a doctor's office with my blanket, and so I'm going to take my socks. But yeah, so anyway, I've knit on this blanket pretty monogamously because I just really enjoy working on projects that have been on my needles for a while and casting them off. I've said that before, right? Over the last episodes, I said it here and there. I really enjoy picking up things that have been on my needles for a while and getting them off my needles, that sense of accomplishment, clearing up some space too, using what I have and just not giving in to the urge that I do have, right, to cast on something new, but sticking with what I have and being a little less flighty. I don't know if that's the right word or word at all, but not jumping from one thing to the next, but sticking with one thing through those 2, 3, 4 days when you really feel like casting on something else. I mean, not that I forbid myself to cast on something. I'm allowed to do that. But I've just realized that if I don't do it, if I resist a little bit, the urge may go away. It's like with shopping. And then it's totally fine just sticking with what you have, finishing that, and maybe then moving on to that other cast on. And that has actually brought me more joy than, rushing to the next thing. And I have a basket of unfinished business over there, so that is still waiting for me. Maybe 1 or 2 projects may also be frogged, I don't know, but there is still enough I mean, basically there is enough knitting in there to last me at least until, I don't want to lie, but August for sure. So it's amazing how you always feel like, oh, I want to stock up on this, and then I can get some of that yarn, and so I have options, and then I have for this project and that sweater and that cardigan. But knitting is a slow craft. It takes up time. Also, I don't have hours every day to just sit and knit, so I don't want to overwhelm myself. I want to, this year, I really feel like I want to use what I have, also in terms of And I know I'm repeating myself, but also in terms of not cluttering up our house in the middle of a move, but also because it just brings me so much joy. And I've really become a monogamous knitter, and I had the best intentions of knitting on my Velour vest that I did cast on a few weeks ago on a regular basis, but I really haven't, because when I knit on it, I want to knit on it, so that I will knit on it until it's done. But I have a feeling that it might be just after the blanket, and that's okay, because there is no rush. I can always knit on it if I want to. It's there, but it might not happen until the blanket is finished, or until I really hit a moment where I'm like, I need a blanket brick, because that might also happen, obviously. But yeah, so I don't know, my knitting really has changed this year, but my life has changed this year. So, so of course there's a connection there, and it's just interesting to see it happen and feel it happen. Like, I feel the shift within, rather than my productivity being different or my knitting habits or anything like that. But it's not anything on the outside. It's not an outward change, but it's inward. I really feel the shift sort of on the inside. It's interesting. Well, it is interesting to be alive and to be knitting, right? And how does anyone cope with anything without knitting? I don't know. I really don't. I am, however, already planning my next blanket project. And there's a good chance I might cast it on sooner rather than later. So before I'm finished with this, and I know I contradict myself now, but you know, I'm large. I contain multitudes. So yes, I want to knit on something monogamously, but also I really feel the itch to cast on that, it's not hibernation, but habitation throw. And this is a mistake I'm going to make 5,000 times when I talk about the blanket. So it's now, did I say it wrong now? It's the Habitation Throw by Kristen Stewart, right? And I'm going to say hibernation throw, because I just, for some reason, I think that's what it's called. I know it's not, but it's going to happen a lot. So anyway, that thing, you know the pattern. And if you don't, I'm going to link it for you. It's everybody's knit it feels like, except for me. I was gifted one. I'm lucky enough to have been gifted one. Blanket, a Habitation Throw. Yes, I said it right. And I sometimes feel it in my bones that this is the blanket that is going to come up next. And so since I'm sort of sorting my strips by color, right, I have put everything that's been left over from these individual strips, and it isn't a lot because I used up pretty much everything, but the little pieces here and there that have been left over, or partial, not even partial skeins, but partial mini skeins that I haven't, what is happening here? The partial mini skeins are just leftovers of the leftovers that I did not use for my jelly roll blanket. I put those in an extra tiny little bag where I just collect bits and pieces until I cast on my Habitation Throw, and they're just going to go in there. And I'm going to use up what I have until it's gone and not knit exactly, because I mean, these are always like, I don't know, 4 garter ridges or 5 or something like that. So 8 or 10 rows. And then there's an eyelet row, right? There is the tiniest bit of lace knitting there. I'm not going to use one color for one of these sections, or for a stripe, if you will. But I'm just going to use what I have until it's gone, and then go for the next color. And I don't care if the stripes are not equally as long. It's just going to be a scrappy blanket, and it's a pattern where I think it doesn't really show. you don't see it as clearly as you think you would, you know, the changing of colors. So that's what I'm going to cast on next. Yeah, I don't know when, over the next weeks. And it would be fun to cast it on and just knit a little bit on it, because you're increasing as you go with that one. So you're starting small, like with a triangular shawl, and I might just start knitting on it as it gets warmer, then put it aside over the summer when it might have become more substantial in width, and then pick it back up come fall or something like that. That might be a plan, but I don't know. I'm gonna see where my knitting takes me. But yeah, that's what I can envision now. Let's put it that way. There hasn't been a mending segment on here for a while, but it doesn't mean that I'm not mending stuff. It's just very unspectacular little mends, just darning socks and fixing holes and putting a new elastic into a skirt or pants, or I don't know, you know, just everyday tiny little holes. And I even work on commission now, because I have a friend who, when she comes visit, she will bring a few pieces and be like, I thought you might be able to mend these for us. And of course I do that. So yeah, so I do mend on a regular basis. The to be mended pile is one that just grows steadily and has to be taken care of on a regular basis. Otherwise things get out of hand and become really unmanageable. So I'm doing that. And this year I decided to keep track by just writing all of my mends down, and for no other sake than to just see how many pieces I mend over the course of a year. I just was curious. Curious. Yeah, that's the right word, isn't it? I was curious. It feels like I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I don't think I am. But you know that when sometimes a word just sounds wrong. Anyway, I wanted to know just how many pieces I mended over the course of a year, not so that I could brag about it or reversely make myself feel bad about it if I thought it would have been more, but just so that I would really, just so I have something to hold on to that actually shows me that it does matter, you know, how big of an impact it is that I take this time, because mending is not my most favorite job. There are mending jobs that are fun, but the sort of mending that I'm doing 95% of the time isn't very creative or very fulfilling, because I'd rather be doing something else. But it's just, it has to be done, so I do it. I'm wired that way. I'm very, what's the word, diligent that way. It has to be done, so I do it, and I don't push it off too far usually, but I'm glad if it's done. And when my kids come running to me with like, Mom, there's a hole in my shirt, I'm not overjoyed, but I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear about it, just put it on the pile, you know. Where was I going with this? Anyways, I wanted to just motivate myself, I think that's what it is, with an actual overview over the year of how much I've mended over the year, in the course of a year, so that I see just how much it matters that I sit down every week to do these tasks. And I see my kids' eyes glowing when I hand them back a piece that they were sad that there was a hole in it, and then they can wear it again because it's favorite pieces, right? But also some mends are not as special to anyone, but they have to be done, and I wanted to just have numbers to hold on to so that I can motivate myself and just feel that impact a little bit more. And up until now, I am at a good 70 pieces. So I've knit over 70 pieces this year. No, knit. Oh no. I have mended over 70 pieces this year. And there are more substantial holes in socks that take you an hour and a half to take care of. And there are small little things that are done in 5 minutes. But I did them, you know, and I'm interested in seeing how much accumulates over the course of a year. And I do have a few more substantial mends waiting for me that I need to get material for, or I really need to have the time to sit down with my sewing machine and actually do them. And those might be the ones that I'm going to show on. Those might be the ones that I'm actually going to show you and talk to you about, because they're just so much more interesting than a hole in a t-shirt. But I just want to encourage you to take care of these holes in t-shirts and just mend your stuff. You're going to be so grateful to yourself. You're going to feel so self-sufficient and productive and just connected to your stuff in a much more meaningful way, like more physically and emotionally connected. I can only recommend it so much. If you want to post what you've been mending in our Ravelry group, there is a thread for that. And by all means, do go there and post if you are mending something, and let me know what that is. So if any of you are interested in that, I would be super happy to see you there. Obviously, you can always leave a comment, or you can just mend in silence and just do it on your own. I don't care, but if you want to share, I'm happy to hear it. I'm bringing back my current obsession segment because I'm obsessed about a few things. I have been obsessed about a few things over the last week, or with a few things. Anyway, Bridgerton is coming back in May, in the middle of May. So in almost a month's time. And I'm very excited. And I'm rewatching the other 2 seasons again. I mean, I've rewatched them plenty of times. I just think it's such a fun show. It's just so enjoyable on many levels. I think it's fun. I think it's funny. I think it is visually very beautiful. The colors are just stunning oftentimes. I do have my issues with Kate Sharma, who is the female lead in the 2nd season. I think, oh man, I'm sorry to say that, but I think that they could have found a better actress, because she doesn't really act a lot. She basically usually stands there in the room and does not move at all. And they could have found someone else, but okay. And I just think it's such a fun show. So I've been watching and rewatching that, and it only just, and I mean, you can now really laugh at me, but I only just figured out that one of the songs, because in Bridgerton they always play sort of current pop music in like string quartets or something, so that when they dance at a ball, they dance to Dancing on My Own, or I think they played Material Girl for the first ball in the 2nd season. And I mean, or Alanis Morissette, and also like there were so many cultural pop references in there. And I never, I mean, I know the melody by heart now because I've rewatched it a few times, but I never understood or recognized that in season 1, but I couldn't now tell you the scene because I've only now understood that when I heard the actual Taylor Swift song, is that they were replaying Taylor Swift song. And it's so beautiful, and it lends itself so well to being played by an actual orchestra. So it's the Wildest Dreams song from the 1989 album. And I've been on a bit of a mission to catch up with Taylor Swift, because I know many of her songs, but I am not really fluent in her albums and in Taylor Swift. I don't speak Taylor Swift fluently, and I would like to, because I think she is, I don't know, maybe the biggest artist right now, and it has been for quite a while. And I just like to, I don't want to be so old that I don't even know all of Taylor Swift stuff, you know? Because, I mean, I don't know. I just want to be on top of I used to be much of a music person. Maybe that's what it is. And I used to run to concerts like a crazy woman. And ever since I had kids, this just changed. And I just kind of fell behind a little bit on just with all the music that was coming out, also from artists that I was really following. And I think I'm trying to catch up a little bit and work my way back to really knowing my stuff, you know, and listening to all of Taylor Swift's albums is just part of that. I've decided that it is just part of that. And I'm not going all the way back, but I started with the one that I still kind of know, but apparently not as well as I thought. Maybe that's an overstatement, that I thought I knew it well, but maybe I also know, maybe I only know parts of 1989, or I did know. And now I've listened to it a couple of times, and I think I find it quite enjoyable, because it's just done very well. And I think she is a tremendous writer. She really is such a good writer. And for me, it's always lyrics over music. Tell me how it's for you, because people are very different in that regard. There are people who say it's music over lyrics every time. And for me, it's always the opposite. There is no exception. I'm always lyrics over music. And so I'm always drawn to artists and bands that have good lyrics, because that's what keeps me engaged, you know. And she's one of those artists. She really has really good lyrics often. She really is a good writer. And so I listened to 1989, a few times, and I thought, hold on, this is a song I know from Bridgerton. I really laughed about myself, because that really showed like how old I was, because I should have been the other way around, right? I should have watched Bridgerton and thought, oh, hold on, this is Taylor Swift, but it was flipped for me. Well, it's a beautiful song in each version. And yeah, that's something I was kind of obsessing over, that I tried to work my way back to knowing my stuff. And in the process, I just realized how much I had fallen behind, basically. Yeah, well, that's okay, but it was just interesting. And other than Bridgerton, I watched different things, a little bit here and there, but what I started watching and was really excited about was Ripley on Netflix. And I'm going to be very upfront about the fact that I only wanted to watch it because it stars Johnny Flynn, who's a tremendous actor. He has played Mr. Knightley in the most recent Emma adaptation, the 2020 by Autumn the Wild. And I think it's by far the best adaptation of Emma. I think Emma is for me, the most compelling story by Jane Austen. And Johnny Flynn is the perfect Mr. Knightley, and he hasn't historically been captured well on screen, I don't think. And he is such a love at second sight that it's just perfect. It is just, I think his Mr. Knightley is just on the nose. Even though you first see him and you're like, this is going to be Mr. Knightley, are you sure? And then it just works out so perfectly. So if you have not watched the movie, by all means, drop everything and go watch it now. It is just incredibly beautiful. Again, color, costumes, but also the actors are amazing, and the dialogue obviously is amazing, and it's just so fun, so fun. I've talked about this at greater length in my very early episodes on the podcast. But so Johnny Flynn, I've seen him in other roles, and I think he's very versatile. That makes him such a great actor, because he's played such different roles, very different roles. And he's been really convincing in all of them. Not that I've seen him in everything that he's done, but quite a lot of things. And I wanted to see him in Ripley. I have to say, I mean, now I'm in, what is it, episode 3 or 4? I think episode 3 is just ended. And I'm not going to give anything more away, except to say that I wouldn't now have to watch further to see Johnny Flynn in it, because that's over. But I have the feeling that there may be flashbacks, or that he's still going to figure in those shows, or episodes, even though he's technically no longer in them. But also I want to see how it goes on, and how Ripley now, well, where he goes from that point onwards. But I am still a little scared that it's going to be too creepy for me, because I do not do creepy shows. I don't do horror. This is not a horror show. This is just psychological creepiness, which is enjoyable, but only to a certain extent for me. And if it gets too intense, I'm not going to watch it anymore. That is not at all what this is nothing my television watching is not for things that are too intense. Not at all. I don't like things that really go under my skin when in vivid images. I cannot do that. Or I used to, but I can't anymore. Anyway, I think it is very well done in many ways. The actors are amazing. The Ripley actor, fantastic. Johnny Flynn is obviously a win, just the right person. I don't know, and that's because I'm not a native speaker. He's British, and he speaks with an American accent, and I don't know if it could have been a little bit broader. I don't know if to an American audience he is 100% convincing as an American, because he didn't speak as differently in that show as compared to others. Then again, I'm sure they're gonna have speech trainers and whatnot on set, so I don't know. You tell me. Tell me if you've seen the show, that it's been convincing or not. But other than that, he's absolutely been amazing for that role. It really fits him. What I don't like about the show is the way it started. I watched it with my husband, and I think we turned the show off after 20 minutes or something, because both of us were just incredibly bored. nothing happens at all in the beginning of that show. And I realize that it's supposed to be that way so as to create a contrast to everything that comes. That show picks up speed very slowly, but then rapidly. At some point, all of a sudden things happen. I know, but it's also kind of, I mean, if it's just plain boring, people are not going to watch it. I'm just saying. But I did just pick it up again because of the actor. And also it was so artsy in the beginning. It gets better. But I don't really get why it's filmed in black and white, because I think it's obviously filmed in color and then just made black and white. It's not a production like earlier when they did black and white movies where it's really a black and white movie. I don't love it. Again, I know, I get why they went for that choice, but I don't think it's necessary. It would have been better without. And I mean, I don't need 3 shots of him walking up the stairs. I don't need 3 shots of him turning on the shower. Okay, you know, it's many cuts and many still lives and nothing much happening except for camera work. And again, I think I know why they did that and what they wanted to transport, and also there is an effect that is created, but mostly for me the effect was that I was a little bored, and then I was annoyed because I thought, I get it, you're artists, it's an artsy show, but can't something happen, you know? And I don't know, if you're bored, if you start watching it and you're bored or a little fed up, just skip ahead or just stick with it for a half an hour, and then things start happening and it actually gets fun. It's supposed to be very mellow and slow, I think, so as to create a stark contrast with things that do happen, and sort of not out of the blue, but very rapidly and suddenly. That is how the show works, right? And that is the character of Ripley, I think. Just an incredible observation, and he is very passive, also very manipulative, which often looks very passive, right? And then all of a sudden, I don't know, he comes to life, he strikes, he's overcome, he does something, and then fades back to still lives. So I understand, but I don't know. I'm not in love with how the show is done, but I do think it's a recommendation, even though I've only watched, I don't know, I think 3 episodes. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I've been knitting on this blanket and watching Bridgerton and Ripley and a few other things, and tending to our garden and managing household and kids and things and gatherings that we've gone to, and just the changing of the season, which comes with a lot of work. And we're very excited to now go through our first spring in our new home, and then, you know, settle into our first summer. I'm not a summer person, but this year I'm pretty excited for it because I wonder just what it's going to be like here in the countryside as opposed to in the city. And I'm very hopeful that I will enjoy summer much more here in the countryside as opposed to in the city, because I think that many of the things that stressed me and tired me extremely in the city and the heat are things that I will no longer have to deal with in that same way now, with our garden and with our entirely different lifestyle that we have now. So that is going to be very exciting. In the meantime, I'm going to hang on to my knitting, hold on to my knitting for support. And I hope I will have many things to show you next week. Even though with the blanket, it seems like I'm showing you the same thing over and over again. But sometimes that's what knitting is, right? Then we can chat about TV and other things. And yeah, there are going to be many things going on over the next 2 months, because these months are going to be worse than Christmas time. It's going to be absolutely crazy with appointments and gatherings and parties and everything, because one of my kids is leaving kindergarten this summer and starting school, and that is a huge to-do in Germany, and there's so many events and so many things that are taking place, and then my other kids also have things going on, so it's going to be extremely busy. And I hope that I'm going to be able and come back on a weekly basis, but if you don't hear from me for a few days, that's where I am, that's where I will be. Managing, you know, all of those appointments and invitations and guests that are coming over and all of this craziness. So I hope to be back next week with a little bit of knitting content, and I thank you so much for hanging out with me today, for allowing me to hang out with you, for just taking that little bit of time out of your day to catch up and connect. And while you're here, you might as well decide to like and subscribe. And I hope you feel like coming back for another video. If it's not for you, certainly hop on, find another podcast. There's so many great podcasts out there. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. I hope to talk to you again next week. And until then, happy knitting and take care.